Perek Yud Beis Al Beinani. Chapter 12 deals with Beinani. And I got to tell you that the Alter Rebbe has, in my opinion, 3 prakim devoted to Beinani. Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, and Yud Aleph. Tezvav was already an andezach, l'daiti. I could be wrong, this is how I understand it. And if you wonder why the Alter Rebbe gives the Beinani 3 prakim when he gives the tzaddik and the rasha a perek a piece, so the simple answer, of course, is because this is a sefer shel Beinani. It's not a sefer shel tzaddikim. It's not a sefer shel rishoyim. But a little bit of a deeper answer is because a Beinani is different than a tzaddik in a very basic way. A Beinani's life is defined by mood. Tzaddik's life is defined by constancy. You'll see it in Perek Yud Gimel. He's going to talk about the Yivim Emes. That Tzaddikim's avoid is Emes. He's going to pilpul b'chlal whether a Beinani's avoid is Emes because it's moody. Beinanim have ups and downs. They're fluctuating. Up and down, up and down, up and down. There's moods. And therefore you have to describe all the moods. All the possibilities in the life of a Beinani. The mashal for it is the rich man and the poor man, right? The rich man has a stock full of wood. Every hour he puts in one log and his house is always the same temperature. The Beinani the poor man doesn't have enough fuel. So he puts his whole fuel supply into the fire in the morning. The house is boiling hot. And he hopes that at night it'll still be a little bit warm. Because if he would put the fuel in, like the rich man does, by midday his house will be refrigerated. And by supper time it'll be a freezer. Do you understand? The Beinani has to concentrate his life around his davenings. A tzaddik not so much. Because the tzaddik's Avos Hashem, Yiras Hashem, it doesn't go away. There's no Yitzhar Hara to counter it out. A Beinani, on the other hand, his life has these moods. One of the ideas that appears in the Tanya in describing the moods of the Beinani would be the terms Melucha and Memshala. Sometimes a Beinani is a king, and sometimes a Beinani is a dictator. It's going to be in the beginning of this Perek. When a Beinani davens, he's a king over himself. Malchusei Beratzen, his body and even his animal soul are a willing collaborator in Avedas Hashem. Between davenings, he's a Moshe, the dictator. He's forcing himself into a state of discipline because he's not inspired, and there's just a Rishimu, a Roshim, a trace of his Avedas Hashem during davening. That remains for the duration of the day that sustains him from davening to davening. So a Beinani's avodah has these fluctuations and moods, and the Alter Rebbe is going to talk about these different moods. The word that we're going to use as we learn these few prakim is the word melech and moshel. Melech and moshel. During davening, a Beinani is a melech. He's a king. And the Rebbe writes in one of his notes, you don't have to have Yam. Hashem doesn't have to help you then. You can do it yourself. Between davenings, when you're only a dictator over yourself, this is when the day is. So we start Perek Yud Gimel. Va'abeinani and the Beinani Yisrael Olam that never. Ein hara gever kol kach. The evil never is strengthened so much. It never conquers the small city, which is your body, to use the body as its garment by making the person sin. The Hainu, in other words, the 3 garments of the animal soul. Which are thought, speech, and deed. And I remember, I told this to you already many times. Remember, there's 2 sets of machshava, 2 sets of dibur, and 2 sets of maisa. Where you do a mitzvah from maisa nefesh alakis, you do an aveda or a stamatayvet, and you jump from nefesh to nefesh. We switch from nefesh alakis, nefesh abahamis, faster than the eye could see. But it's 2 different sets of levushim. And gave it on nefesh alakis, never defeat the nefesh alakis. Le'eslabish, to become the actual garments, beguf in the person's brain. The person never lets the levushim nefesh abahamis actually take over. B'mayach in the brain, which would be machshava, u'b'peh in the mouth, which would be dibur, u'b'sha'ar ramach eivar, but the remaining 248 limbs, which would be maisa, la'achatiyam, to make them sin, u'lotamam, and to contaminate them, chas v'shalom, gatabim. Rather, the Beinani is a person that shleisha levushay nefesh alakis, the 3 garments of the godly soul. Remember again, there's a separate machshava for nefesh alakis, a separate dibur, and a separate ma'aser nefesh alakis. Hein levadim, they alone, mislapshim, become the garments. Beguf for the body. Sheheim, which are machshava, dibur, ma'aser, thought, speech, and deed. Shotayad mitzateh. V'lei over avera mayamav. A Beinani never sins. He struggles. There are times that he's about to sin, but he doesn't do it with pain. He doesn't think a bad thought that's an aveda. He doesn't say a bad word that's an aveda. He doesn't do a bad deed that's an aveda. Nor does he miss an opportunity to say what he must say and think what he must think and do what he must do with mamish. So the Beinani he's surviving by the hair of his chinny chin chin. He's not like a tzaddik that is Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. Okay, but in the final analysis, he never lets nefesh abahamis sin. But now comes 3 words which are very, very disconcerting. V'layav v'layela. He will never sin. How do you know? Well, this really, he never sinned. You never sin means once you do one Aveda, you can't be a Beinani? How do you know right now if you're going to sin tomorrow? So the Rebbe has many notes on this. The bottom line is, even if a person did an Aveda, there's a Tshuva Me'ava which can overturn an Aveda completely. And the Rebbe is saying, when you are right now inspired in Avodas Hashem, Ba'asher hu sham, as you stand at this particular moment, the way you feel right now about God and reality and yourself, you're not going to sin in the future. And therefore, the name Rasha was never placed upon him, even for 1 hour, in one instant, call Yom of his whole life. Because he never did any Avedas. Now, if he did Avedas, he did Tshuva for them. And he did Tshuva Me'ava, which are retroactive, which killed the Aveda in the past, as if he never did the Aveda. And therefore, even if he once did an Aveda, he erased the Shem Rasha, which he had in the past. And therefore, Shem Rasha Allah Shahs. A Beinani is barely doing the right thing and not doing the wrong thing, but he's constant in the bottom line. The Beinani is very emotionally moody, has ups and downs, highs and lows, but Lapei Mamish, he doesn't fall below the line. But you must know that Mahus V'yatzim never shall kiss, the essence of the godly soul. The essence of the godly soul is not what you think, do, and say, but how you feel. Shein Esa B'chinaseh, which are the 10 faculties of Seichel and Midas, right? On the level of Levushim, Achshav Dibur Amaisa, he's a winner. But on the level of Seichel and Midas, he's fighting like a lion. Leila, Hen, Levada, not they alone. Now here are the two words. Hamalucha, the kingship. Kingship would mean that you want to do what Nefesh Elokis wants. V'amamshala means the domination, which means that you don't want to do it, but you're forcing yourself to do it. Melucha is beklos b'shas tefillah, and memshala is shalei b'shas tefillah. B'irktana over the body, over the city. Because the Nefesh HaBahamis is always there to challenge you and to test you and to try to inspire you in the opposite sense. Bottom line, you don't do the Aveda, but the struggle is there. You following? There are only certain times that a Beinani becomes tzaddik-kesk. He becomes like a tzaddik. There are moments in the Beinani's life that he has no Yetzer Hara. But as soon as those moments pass, the Yetzer Hara is back, and if he's gotten a rest and a recovery, and he's back with a vengeance. But there are times that a Beinani can put his Yetzer Hara to sleep. What are those? Maybe Shah's Kriya Shema Tefillah, when he says Shema and Davening. That because of his intense concentration and Zugedragenkeit, he can be so focused in and locked in and inspired that his Yetzer Hara doesn't bother him. In addition, she sha'as mechen the gadlos lamayla. The b'sha'as a Beinani learns and davens. Daven doesn't say learning, by the way. It says kirishma and davening. A, because of what he's doing. B, because it's an eis rotzen lamayla. On high, it's a time of greater giluyim. The combination of what you're doing and the specialness lamayla affects the gadol here also. Ishas hakesha l'choladim. It's a special time for a person. This is advocacy for davening in time as opposed to davening late. Because it's a zman, it's an eis ratzon for davening. Sha'az that at that time, because he is mekashesh chabad shalei, he connects his intellect, lavai to the Eibishter, laham megdaita to delve deeply, begdulas ein sevar, when the greatness of the Eibishter. Will aid it to arouse us a love to the Eibishter kirish be'esh, which is like fire attached to a coal, which we described in Tanya Teves. First of all, b'chol ha'yemani shebelibi in the right ventricle of the heart. Udavka beita become attached to him. Now, how do you become attached to the Eibishter? How do you become one with the Eibishter? It's only through Bekiyum, Ateiru, Mitzvah, by learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, mi'avad of love. Shezehu, Inyan Mavua B'Kriyishma, which is what we talk about in Krishma. The first Pasha of Krishma, we talk about the Eibishter. The second Pasha of Krishma, we talk about his Gezeidas and his mitzvahs, right? V'hoyim Shameya, it calls El Mitzvah Sai. The Heraisa, which is Minateiru, Birchaseh Shalfan Al-Achareha, and the Brachas before Krishma and after Krishma, we talk about Malachim, you talk about Neshamet, you talk about Yitzias Mitzrayim, She'ein Midrabanon to the Rabbanon. Hein Hachana L'Kiyam, because they're in preparation, which creates the mood and the inspiration. If you're going to say Shema and hold by Achtas Avaya in a way that affects practically doing mitzvahs, it's first you talked about the Galgalim and the Malachim, and how they're mashpia shefa, and how they're only tools in the Eibishter's hand, which is the first bracha. Then you talk about Neshamas Yisrael, the Eibishter's favoritism. And after Krishma, you're going to talk about Yitzias Mitzrayim, how when you say Shema to the Eibishter, you go out of your old limitation and serve the Eibishter. This is the decorations that the Krishma should lift us to a point of Achtas Hashem, which translates into doing Torah and mitzvahs in a way that, for the moment, puts the Yetzer Hara to sleep. At that time, small, the evil in the left ventricle of the heart, kafaf is bent to bottle and nullify to the good. Hamaspashet, which radiates, which expands from the brain, b'chol yamani, into the right ventricle of the heart. Mechabad shebamech, from the chabad of one's brain. Hamukusharim Gdul saying say Baruch was the tat, the greatness of the Eibishter. These 4 words that from Kledim what this means, but perhaps it means the idea of Pintel Yid, which we'll discuss in Perikut Ches, but I don't know. When a person finishes davening, when these great intellectual koiches and concentration and focus, which are connected to Ein Sof, depart. A, I'm not davening anymore. B, it's no longer the Eis Ratzon of Tefillah Lamaila of Agam Lamata, which puts the whole world. There is an alignment which allows for this separation to take place. The evil comes back and it wakes up. The whole small in the left ventricle of the heart, and a person can desire desires of the desires of this world and its pleasures. So a Beinoni is in a constant fight. There are times that he's a melech, and the rest of the time he's only a moishel. The bottom line is he doesn't give in. Now I want to point out that Alter Rebbe says that when can a person put the Yetzer Hara to sleep? When he davens, or Krishma. What about when he learns Teda? And the Teda says that the Pashtas learning Teda is different, because learning Teda is not involved in regish. The passion is what puts the Yetzer Hara to sleep, not the intellect. In the next page, we're going to talk about the Rabbe. That by Rabbe, it says Leposek Pumim Megis, he didn't stop learning, but his Teda was like Beinoni Amispalo Kolayim. The Chiddush of Rabbe is that his Teda was like somebody else's Tefillah.